what's weird is that on the subject of Kyle, him and I in like 2021, 2022, we were both our channels were functionally dead. I mean, we were still getting views and making content, but our subscriber number was just staying the same. He was at like 970,000. I was at like 367, and it kept going up, but then back down again, and I just had no growth whatsoever. I don't know why that was happening. Part of it is, that was the time when I was focusing on like anti-vax stuff, so maybe the algorithm hated me. I don't know. I don't know if it's algorithm related. I don't know if my content was just boring. Probably that's what it was. But I mean, when you do this for so long, this is going to be my 10th
I think
year
it was
as of
actually the end
June.
of Bernie Sanders, but sorry, not to cut you off, but I think it was the fact
Oh,
that Bernie
true.
Sanders movement had ended, and a lot of people that were former Bernie bros were depressed and were like, I don't want to pay attention to this
That's a
anymore.
great point because I was feeling that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because actually I was feeling that in 2020 as well. Yeah, so I mean, listen. At the end of the day, if you want longevity here, you just have to do the show that you want to do. If you chase trends, it's gonna backfire. If you try to appeal to an audience or a particular audience, it's going to backfire. Maybe you get short term success, but long term, you're going to be seen as a sellout. Long term, that audience is not going to stay with you. So you need to build something that's long lasting. And I think that it's easy to do that if you just have like principles. Like Kyle has been saying the same shit for like 80 years. Like you could go back to 2008 when he first was making videos. He's saying the same shit. And largely, the same is true for me. I mean, I've changed on certain things. I've gotten more radical in a sense, even though people call me a shit lib. But like, it's for the most part, if you have an actual belief system and you have an underlying goal, then I think that people will see that for the most part, and they'll ultimately reward you for that. At times, it's not going to be great. You know what I mean? Like there were times in my YouTube career where it's like, oh, might have to get a second job, and then a month later, it's like, whoa, okay, we're back in it, and then the next month it's really
A roller
bad.
coaster.
Yeah.
It really is. You don't really have a lot of stability in that sense, but since you're so lucky to be doing this, you roll with it. You ride this bitch until the wheels come off, and I'm happy to do it as long as people want me to. So it's hard. A lot of it is luck, honestly. Like I know that that's easy. Like it's just shitty to say because it doesn't necessarily mean that there's meritocracy, but a lot of it is luck. Being in the right place at the right time, making a video that just happens to hit at the right time. It just really depends. So I don't know. For all these people who, like the Young Turks, for example, who are pivoting, um, I honestly think that it's not necessarily a grift. I thought it was a grift, but then after seeing how badly it's affected their channel, I have to assume that it's genuine. But I think that for somebody like them, I don't think that they had any core principles. At least not leftist principles, like as much as I do. Not to be like, oh, I'm the most leftiest leftist. I'm the max left or whatever. But like in all seriousness, like Cenk has never really been socialist. He's always kind of been more sock dem at best, which is fine. But ultimately, he's a capitalist, and it's very evident that that's what drives him. That's what motivates him. And I get it. Like, yes, dozens of people that work at TYT. So I understand why you have to be a little bit more ruthless in that sense. When you have
75, according
employees,
to him.
which I struggle to believe. And I have no idea. My interactions with TYT people, like the producers and whatnot, wonderful people. They genuinely believe in everything that they say and do. So it is sad to see what's happening with TYT, but like I don't know how they can survive with 75 employees at this point. But like, yeah, for him, I think that for Cenk it's just the business. For Anna, I actually think it's a form of grievance politics where she genuinely is jaded. I think it's a number of things. I don't know. I don't want to psychoanalyze her, but I think that it's seeing Hassan kind of surpass her, and she feels like he's not doing it in a meaningful way. He's playing video games. She tries to downplay it while discounting his talent and just like how insightful and funny he is.
Right. Well,
And then
that's a
people
big
being
part of the
mean to
reason
her.
why
That
I think
too.
that's a big part of the reason why I identify it as a grift, because I do think so much of it is motivated by their desire to grow as a channel. And I mean, that's kind of the definition of a grift, the
That's
pursuit
fair.
of money and attention at the expense of your previous values and principles. And sure, it's
Hmm.
possible that Cenk and Anna both are actually, this is just who they really are, and the progressivism was actually just a ruse, right? There, that was also a grift. That's genuinely possible. The whole time that they were just like realizing they had a lane for that kind of politics and preaching it, and then as soon as that sort of dried up, they're like, well, enough with that. Time to chase it elsewhere. maybe that's more in alignment with how they actually feel about things at this point. But my point is just that if there was still a big market in their old style of content, I think they probably would have stuck to it, right? I think a big part of the reason why they ultimately decided to jump ship on that is because their views started to dry up and people stopped really giving a shit. TYT stopped controlling the discourse at around that like 2021, 22 point in time that you referenced, where your and Kyle's channel was dead. And it didn't really feel like the progressive Bernie bro faction had any control over the discourse that was happening on the platform. You know, that was also around the time that like this, you know, all these like super pro-Ukrainian left-wing content creators were sort of like taking over Twitch, people like Dylan Burns and all that kind of stuff. And it did seem like a weird place where it was like the Bernie bros have no power anymore. All of a sudden there's this resurgence in like neoliberal politics and stuff. And it felt weird. But I think that obviously, as we talked about, channels like yours and Kyle's that stuck it out and remained true to your principles, didn't try to grift off in any weird direction. You know, you're being rewarded for that consistency and your audience is loyal as a result. But yeah, with TYT, it just seems very incoherent because Jink was saying that Donald Trump is Hitler a couple weeks before the election. And now he's like, oh, no, I didn't mean that. I might have called him a fascist, but not Hitler. As if there's a meaningful difference, right? As if like, oh, yeah, like what? I think most people use those terms interchangeably, but it is very incoherent. And it doesn't seem like they're quite shameless enough to just totally become a straight up MAGA channel either. So like the people that might like what they're saying on Glenn Beck aren't actually going to subscribe to the TYT because TYT is still kind of trying to be like a milquetoast centrist lib podcast or live stream. It's very weird.
It's such a good point that you brought up. And I'm back on the it's a grift with the way that you explained it. I think that makes so much sense. Because when you are in these holes on YouTube, I mean, you all have been there as well. Like you really like the pressure is really hard on you, right? And if you're in a hole and you feel like the channel is dying and your livelihood is going away, you do really feel like I have to do something, right? And it's logical to want to do something and save that. You don't just let it die. You know, for me, back in 2021, when my channel was like dying, I started a Twitch channel and started posting clips to my YouTube channel. And like, okay, maybe I need to change the way that I present my content and be more funny, or just like, you know, play video games and answer questions about politics. I didn't think to change like my ideology though to adapt to the changing landscape. So like when you try to adapt in those bad times when you're in a hole, like how you adapt, I think that kind of just like that dictates who you are. Like the way that TYT is trying to adapt is they're leaning in, right? Anna I just saw she was on Piers Morgan again. She was on Megyn Kelly, the title of your channel, which I'm so glad that you all are covering because I don't want to watch it, but I want to know what she said. So yeah.
Oh, don't say that, Mike. We might make you watch it here in a second.
Yeah. It's funny when I saw that. This is how rotten my brain is. When I saw that she was in the thumbnail for Piers Morgan, I'm like, nice. So I'll have something to listen to on Wednesday when the Vanguard talks about this or something.
Relatable as fuck. Yeah, we're in the same place. It's like this is horrifying, but also like, oh, at least we have something to talk about.
No, and it's so good. Like honestly, your coverage, just because you all stroked my ego, I'm gonna stroke your egos for a second. Your coverage is so fucking good, and anybody who just says that it's trauma, I think that it shows how dense they are, because you guys don't just talk about the he said, she said. Like you break it down at this like rudimentary level. You dive into the policy substance and the disagreements there. And there's like, these are meaningful disagreements, and you extract the policy, you fact check it. So what you're doing is, I think, a service. And also, you're just like, it's entertaining. Like you guys are both entertaining. So you all should applaud yourselves as well. Cause you're also, you're searching right now too, and you're going to get that play button this year. So
bro, you know what? I bring this story up, I think, every time Mike comes on, but it really did mean a lot to us when we were going in that absolute dead zone. Except for us, it happened when we had like 23,000 subscribers, and I just quit my job and be like, "Whoa, we're gonna be famous!" And then you like eat that L, and you're like, "Bro, don't worry. I've also had to root out crazy people from my audience that found me for the wrong reasons." You know, you keep going.